It's Overreaction Monday. Welcome into Texans Today. We're going over the latest Texans news and rumors after practice and the Steelers preseason game. Sorry, little jump scare to start you off, but it's Overreaction Monday. Things are getting a little crazy. Going to be going over a lot of different topics on today's show, so buckle up and get ready. Before we get into any of that, though, we're in a sub battle with our Giants channel. They're a little bit bigger than us, I'm not going to lie, but we play the Giants this week in preseason action, and I can't let my buddy Marshall Green have any bragging rights over me. So if you could help me out in our sub battle, it would mean a lot. We're down around 25 subs right now. So if you haven't already, go down and hit that sub button for daily Texans content. If you want Texans news coverage all year long for free, this is your place to be. So go down and hit that sub button. Now, there might be some new people to the channel, so I wanted to kind of explain how our rumor meter works, the rumor meter that we're going to be working on today. 0 heads, 0 Toro heads, that means it's fake news. It's not going to happen. 1 Toro head, and it's like 25%, chance of happening, a small shred of truth. 2 heads, about 50% chance of happening. People are talking. 3 heads, pretty likely, about a 75% chance. And 4 heads, it's happening. H-Town, hold it down, 4 Toro heads. So getting into our first rumor of today, Texans, are they going to trade a wide receiver? People are talking. I'm going to give this 3 Toro heads because I think it's more likely than not that the Texans end up trading a receiver before the start of the season, because we look at these guys fighting for a roster spot. John Metchie, Ben Skoranek, Xavier Hutchinson, Robert Woods. There's no way the Texans keep all 4 of these guys. I don't see a world where that's possible or that happens unless there's an injury or something else happens. But I really don't see a world where all 4 of these guys end up making the final 53-man roster. And I think all 4 of these guys have some level of trade value going into, the last weeks of the preseason and going into the regular season. I would rather also trade one of these guys than lose them for nothing, because I don't think these guys clear waivers, especially a guy like Xavier Hutchinson. I don't think he clears waivers. A guy like John Metchie, I think there's no chance that he would clear waivers. And as we look at this Texans wide receiver depth chart, we have 3 wide receiver ones, obviously. Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. Behind them, Noah Brown is that 4th guy on the depth chart, in my opinion. And then you have all those guys fighting for spots. And I didn't even mention Steven Sims, who is a really good return man and got a good amount of run up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's another guy who you add to the equation. The only thing I'm thinking around this is I kind of saw somebody's 53-man roster projection, and it really kind of piqued my interest because he had the Texans keeping 7 wide receivers on the depth chart. Now, he had Ben Skoranek as a wide receiver, fullback, tight end hybrid, which, yes, that's how you're probably going to use him in that instance. It also helps you on special teams. But 7 wide receivers on the depth chart for a team that has a lot of injury history and a lot of, prior injuries on the offensive line, keeping 7 wide receivers is going to be really tough, because that means you're going to have to take that away from another position, either offensive line, running back, maybe something on the defensive side of the football. So I don't know if the Texans can keep 7 wide receivers, but it's definitely something that we got to talk about. Now, I talked about, possibly trading one of these guys, either John Metchie or Xavier Hutchinson, because John Metchie right now, Xavier Hutchinson, I think they're kind of fighting for the same role, the same spot on this Texans roster. So I ask you folks at home right now, if both of these guys were on the trade block, who do you think has the higher trade value? Because interestingly enough, I think it actually might be Xavier Hutchinson. I want to hear from you folks at home, though. Who do you think has the higher trade value? And tell me why you think that. Obviously, Metchie, a former second-round pick out of Alabama, very explosive, very elusive, a very fast guy. But Xavier has been balling out this preseason and training camp. Let me know what you think down below. Now, our second overreaction, should the Texans be worried about Christian Harris? And I'll actually tell you how I feel about this and how you should feel about this. Coming up, I'm going to tell you, should we be worried about Christian Harris and that injury? I'll let you know in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at Game Time, my go-to ticketing app, and they should be your go-to ticketing app. Texans football it's here, baby. Make sure you never miss an opportunity to watch this team in person with our sponsor, Game Time. With Game Time, you can expect last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% on buying last-minute tickets to sporting events like Astros games, Dynamo games, Rockets games coming up. There's a ton of concerts, comedy shows, theater, and more, all on the Game Time app, and they have all-in pricing. If you toggle the all-in pricing feature, this shows you the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. You can see your seat view, get a panoramic view of your seat before you buy the ticket in the app, and they have the lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you can find a seat in the same section, same row of an event for cheaper. They're going to refund you 110% of that difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Now, should we be worried about Christian Harris? I'm going to give this one 2 Toro heads, and I'm not hitting the panic meter just yet. I mean, we had some great news yesterday. Christian Harris, he actually returned to practice for the Houston Texans yesterday. Now, he did have to leave practice early, and I was told, it was more of a precautionary thing because he started to tighten up a little bit during practice. This coming in from Aaron Wilson on X. Hashtag Texans linebacker Christian Harris calf still having some issues with the leg. Team taking precautions, checking it out as he gets his first work since the start of camp. And, moving around just a little bit yesterday at camp, Christian Harris, we know these soft tissue injuries, you don't want to re-aggravate it. You don't want to re-tear anything because then that just makes the recovery process that much longer. But as we look at this Texans linebacker depth chart, they were really counting on Christian Harris to be a big part of this. Him and Azeez Al-Shaair are the two guys who are really, the main two that you need to focus on this depth chart because the Texans, they're going to run a lot of nickel dime packages, and those are going to be the two linebackers that should be out there in those packages. So as I look at this depth chart, I'm a little concerned about the depth at the linebacker spot without Christian Harris. I'm not panicking yet on the injury. I mean, preseason training camp, and obviously I think Christian Harris is a really good player. I think he can really step into that role this season. I think him being with DeMeco Ryans last year is really going to help him going into this year, even without this time in training camp in the preseason, because he already had that year under DeMeco Ryans learning this defense, learning the philosophies, and learning what DeMeco wants him to do at the linebacker position. But the depth behind him, I'm a little worried. I think Delshon Phillips has looked pretty good. We've heard some reports out of camp that Jacob Phillips has looked really good. Neville Hewitt is a decent backup spot starter if you need. And then Henry To'oTo'o, I don't really know what to think of him yet. So I'm a little concerned more about the linebacker depth than I am about the Christian Harris injury. That's why I had to give it 2 Toro heads on this one. And lastly, Cam Akers. Is he fighting for the RB2 spot? This one's 4 Toro heads. H-Town, hold it down. You better believe this because this is happening. We're seeing it right before our eyes. He's impressing early on and often during training camp and during the preseason. So much so, DeMeco Ryans had to give him a shout-out after practice yesterday. This is what he had to say. First off, we know he's done it. Going against Cam a lot, and I've seen the plays he's been able to make. So is he surprising me? No, he's not surprising me. But he seems like he's getting back into shape and getting back into football shape, and he's making plays that he's made prior in his career. And if you're wondering, what is DeMeco talking about, seeing him prior? When DeMeco Ryans was the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, they went up against the Los Angeles Rams from time to time, and he saw Cam Akers and was planning to have his defense get ready against Cam Akers. And as we look at his career stats, I mean, when he's on the field, we look at 2020, 2022, averages more than 4.2 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns in 2022, 2 in 2020. And then if you look back also, that Super Bowl year, Cam Akers played 2 playoff games that year, averaged 4.9 yards per carry. So this dude is electric with the ball in his hands. It's just about him getting in and being healthy and staying on the field. I mean, the best ability is availability, and Cam Akers has not had that throughout his NFL career. But if he is able to stay healthy on this team, I think him and Pierce are going to be fighting for those RB2 snaps. I don't think he's going to totally push Dameon Pierce off to the wayside, but I've said it before. Cam Akers could be a signing where we look back into the middle of the season and be like, damn, the Texans got him for a very cheap contract on the low just in the middle of the offseason. And it was one of the best moves that they made the entire year. I really think Cam Akers, if he stays healthy, can be a very dynamic running back for this team. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to continue the conversation, you can follow me on social media on X at Jeremy Chuggs. And I actually created a brand new Texans Today IG page. We only have 192 followers, but I'm trying to get those numbers up. I'm trying to bring you more Texans content in more creative ways. So if you'd love to help a brother out, maybe go give me a follow on IG at Texans Today CS. I'll put that link down in the comment section and description of today's video.